So this Mandelson saga now is a political earthquake. Starmer appointing Mandelson, he injected poison right into the heart of government. People talk about this biggest political scandal of all time. Yeah. This is going to be it. Bit by bit, he is crumbling and it is falling apart. So this man is beyond dud. He's a disaster. I think Starmer is going to be chucking everybody under the bus. Well, I'm going to say, stop right there, Starmer. I'm saying now, here and now on this show, I'm bringing the information that you've got right here, right now, on the Espresso podcast with you into question as well. You can't have a bit and not the other bit.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi, and today I'm joined by the Westminster Whisperer, Esther McVey. Esther, looking lovely in all white.
Thank you very much. Pure as the driven snow.
Yeah.
Kinda. On the M25, yeah.
I say this every week to you, but literally what a week it has been in politics.
Yeah, just when you think this government and those it appoints can't stoop any lower. They amaze us and they do just that. So this Mandelson saga now is a political earthquake. Yeah. It is going to be huge. The fallout is going to be enormous. I would say with Starmer appointing Mandelson, he injected poison right into the heart of government. And this now goes bigger than his friendship, perverse friendship with a convicted paedophile and what they were doing to young people there. It's bigger than that now. It's going to corruption at the heart of government. A criminal investigation has started on Mandelson about information he gave away, sensitive information, market information. And was he paid? Was his husband paid? But now even bigger than that, they're looking into his company and what went on there and the connections with his company. And questions are now being asked about Epstein. What were his connections to Russia? And I say that because now the Polish Prime Minister is wanting an investigation too. Was Epstein a Russian mole and the connections there? So what I'm saying is this is like an iceberg, and 90% of what has happened, I am saying we don't know about yet. It is yet to be uncovered. And I do think when people talk about this biggest political scandal of all time and the reach that it's got, how deep it goes, this is going to be it. And what I will say is the public knew Keir Starmer was a dud. And I say that because the vote he got in 2024 was less than what Jeremy Corbyn got in 2019. So there was no love there, even though he got a massive majority. But what we didn't know was what a disaster Starmer was going to be. And I say that about his judgment, he's got none, about the lies he's told and the betrayals he's made. And I'll say his lack of judgment. Look who he's appointed to his cabinet. So we've got a housing minister done for non-payment of stamp duty. You've got a chancellor who didn't get the right licence to rent out a house. You've got a business secretary who didn't tell the truth on his CV. You've got a corruption minister getting done for corruption. And you had a homeless minister getting rid of her tenants and making them homeless. So he's got a bad judge. And then the lies in the manifesto. He said he wouldn't tax working people. He said how he'd help the hospitality sector. He didn't have in there that he'd be getting rid of trial by jury. And the betrayal. The betrayal of the country's finest, of veterans, betrayal of the country's security there with Chagos Island and with China and the Chinese embassy. So this man is beyond dud. He's a disaster for the country at large.
Well, before we continue, if you think we've earned it, please do like and subscribe. And also hit that hype button. My wife said she couldn't find it yesterday.
Yes, go on.
But it's there. If you're watching on your phone, go to the comments and swipe. If you're watching on your TV, it's nice. It's super easy. Just swipe and you'll find it. It says hype. Hit the hype button. Now, I'm getting hyper. You're talking about the hype button. Let's talk about Starmer's speech today. He came out and said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think he said sorry 5 times. Is that enough?
Well, it's an embarrassment, isn't it? He didn't know. He believed Mandelson. But that goes again to the heart of his poor judgment. I also have to say his lack of curiosity.
Yeah.
He didn't ask questions. Now, I will say to you, a man who's had to be sacked twice from government, you'd think you'd say we're going to have to put extra measures in place here to check he's telling the truth. Because remember, truth is not something that comes easily to Mandelson. So the fact that he believed
the Prince
him
of Darkness
and he believed his lies is an embarrassment. And I don't actually think he should come forward and say that. But at the moment, he's scrabbling for anything that will allow him to survive. He's saying, I knew about the relationship. Oh, but I didn't know the extent of that relationship, how deep it was. No. As Sir Richard Dearlove, the ex-head of MI6, said, that relationship is enough in itself to have not got him appointed.
Yeah.
He didn't need to know what we're going to have a sliding scale now for cabinet appointees. Oh, he's got a relationship, he's just on the phone, or he's just doing emails, or he's seeing him in person, or he's staying at home. No, nonsense. Mm-hmm. The relationship was enough in itself. And then when you see about the lies over the Hindoji brothers' passports, and you go back into his history there, you say, the man tells lies. So for Starmer to be using that as an excuse now is pathetic.
It is pathetic. But has Starmer bought himself a bit more time? Are we talking a few more weeks? Are we talking months? Will he see out the rest of the year?
Well, it was interesting. Hot on the heels of Starmer's speech was Kemi Badenoch's speech. And she put it very clearly. It's not if he's going, it's just when now. When is the time? And remember, that's not down to us. That is down to his MPs. But it is going to happen. And can I tell you, because we will look at what happened in Parliament yesterday, both in Prime Minister's questions and then this humble address afterwards. It was Parliament at its best. And actually, during what was happening, Labour MPs were on the phone. They were shocked. They were actually galvanising into action. And then obviously you saw Angela Rayner come in. I know she wants to do a leadership bid, but she obviously piped up and also got the government on the run. But we'll go through that sort of bit by bit. And I've got sort of what was said here, because I think the key things here was the question in PMQs by Kemi Badenoch. And when she said, did the official security vetting that he received, that the Prime Minister received, mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein? When he gave the answer, yes, it did, there were gasps, audible gasps, not just from our MPs, but from the Labour backbenchers. And that's when they hit the phone. And that's when they thought, this is over. This is like a moral collapse. This is not known. And they don't understand. So people are now asking, what has Mandelson got on the government?
Yeah.
What maybe has he got on Starmer to have got the job? The other bit, I did a bit of research. What did he say? Because obviously this bubbled up, and we've talked about this. Started back in September, and I looked, what did Kemi Badenoch say in September in PMQ? She said, was the Prime Minister aware of this intimate relationship when he appointed Lord Mandelson to be our ambassador in Washington? Now, it's very interesting here. So he didn't lie, but he kept hiding behind full due process was followed. That's what he kept saying, full due process was followed. And then if you remember, he had full confidence in him.
Yeah.
But he didn't say anything. But now he has seen it. Then he was hiding behind processes. So I say bit by bit, he is crumbling and it is falling apart.
You think with his lawyer background, he'd be better at... Well, I suppose he's great at equivocation, and he's very good at saying the right thing to not really answer the question and not incriminate himself too much.
No, I think he knows he's now on the ropes. I mean, people are talking about his hands shaking, the fact that he was rattled, how quickly he left the chamber, how they'd put together the humble address, which sort of comes next. And the humble address in Parliament, not often used, but it has been used. And this is a process by which you can get information from the government. And that was what the opposition, the Conservative Party, put down. But before that, in PMQs, it's quite interesting. Ed Davey even asked about the connection between Russia, between Mandelson, between Epstein. So that seed was already planted there. But really, Once that police investigation had started, because remember, we've got more releases from the Epstein files, and that all came out. So when they started to fall out, that's when Mandelson then said, I'm standing down, I'm resigning from the Lords. But you remember, back in September, there was that weird 50th birthday book. Do you remember that they all wrote their sort of comments to Mandelson in that? And that was where you saw the pictures and how much we like you and we're best mates and all that. So that was the first. And then the second one now is the drop of all these details of correspondence. And then if you listen to, and it's quite interesting, there's a lot of people coming out on the news at the moment who were financial journalists at the time going back to, because you remember this was the financial crash in 2009, 2010, where Mandelson's back at the heart of government. He's the business minister. And this is where you see he is emailing Epstein 2 minutes after a secret meeting, 5 minutes after, 10 minutes, to give him the latest information. So when they were talking about a potential 500 billion bailout for the Eurozone, privy conversation, very sensitive to the financial markets, he emailed that straight to Epstein, who is a financial fixer.
Yeah.
He will know lots of people in the money markets. He would have made vast amounts of money on that. This is really sensitive information. Didn't just do that. The next one was sensitive meetings between who would have been the Chancellor at the time, Alistair Darling, and Brown. What were they going to do when they were coming up with the idea? Look, we're going to have to tax bankers on their bonuses. He goes straight to Epstein, tells him that, who gets onto one of the most powerful bankers in America, who then comes back to Alistair Darling, threatening with him with what he's going to do when he can't do it. So you've got at the centre of government somebody who's the business secretary, who's aware of this top sensitive information, sending it to somebody who trades in this. And the reason I think people are looking into this Russian connection, whether it's like Poland, Dave, you raised it as well, they're saying the information that Epstein got on people is typical KGB, how they get information to blackmail people.
Yeah.
So these photos, when people are looking at them now, that photo of Peter Mandelson, he doesn't know that's being taken. The man's incredibly vain. He wouldn't have been stood there in a pair of terrible sort of white undies like that. You can tell they're not looking at the camera. So I'm wondering, when he saw that, so he's seen the information that's coming through, all these emails he sent, he's seen those photos, he knows there is more coming. He knows there is more happening there. And I just wondered, was everything videoed with hidden cameras? The man's got a dossier on everybody. And I think, you know, that's why I say it's like the tip of the iceberg, what we've got here. It really is shocking. Now, the next bit of information they're going to look at is his business. Is this business called Global Counsel. And when he was getting his checks, so the humble address in Parliament saying we want to see what the checks were, what questionnaires he filled, was it more box ticking, did you get all the information, the due diligence, what went on the information, and also his business, how was he allowed to keep a massive share, I think it's 28%, in his business usually, and I've been a Secretary of State, and they go through all this, and you've got to declare your sort of who you know, you've got to declare your relationships, you've got to declare your money, things on Companies House, what you're getting money from, even down to charities, even what your parents or your husband could be linked with. So you've got to declare all that. Now, I'm going to say, and I think this is shocking because I was looking into this, and this was raised yesterday, and this was about, and I think this, I don't know which bit's going to be the worst bit, but this is here, and this was asked on the floor of the House yesterday. On the 27th of February, 2025, the Prime Minister, whilst in Washington, visited an American data AI company called Palantir, and it went to its headquarters. And the meeting does not appear on the Prime Minister's register of visits. Again, unheard of. Everything is documented, where you stay, what you do. Palantir is a client of Global Counsel. Mandelson still has a commercial share in that. And later that year, Palantir got a £240 million deal granted by a direct award. So when I'm saying to you, when they look into the business connections, when they look into the payment, remember, Mandelson's saying, going back to 2004, I didn't remember I got a £75,000 amount of money, right? So they're saying that. Then his husband got a series of payments from Epstein, and he's questioning that. But I look at the bigger picture. So you think this man's going to be making millions and millions, not £75,000 or £12,000 from the connections, from this information that Mandelson is handing to Epstein. But this company, which is worth about, I was checking it this morning, about 40 million quid. Is this where everything went to? Is it the connections? Is it the ties? Is it the jobs? And he has kept a hold of that. And then let's look at who is part of that company. So I was looking at this. People like Ben Wegg-Prosser is part of this company, who also worked in the Blair government. So what I am saying, when they dig into all of this, I don't just think this is going to bring down Starmer and Mandelson is gone. I also think this could go to the heart of the new Labour project and bring them all down. Tony Blair's been incredibly quiet. I mean, we haven't heard from Alistair Campbell. All of these were like this. And the fact, actually, that Gordon Brown came forward, he actually asked for an investigation last September and nobody did anything. And now he's come forward. The government is going to assist with this police investigation. Gordon Brown wants to give evidence to it, and they will be calling people forward. So, like I said yesterday in Parliament, and the reason I will finish on why it was such a brilliant day in Parliament, and I've brought not only...
Gosh, she's got receipts.
Yeah, I totally have got receipts. So I'm feeling, I'm doing this now. So this is the order paper of the day. So at the start of the day, there was one humble address on it. And because Starmer didn't want to answer any questions, he said, if it touches on sort of intelligence and security, we can't, so if national interests, we can't do it. And not just national security. He also said international relations. And everybody's going, well, he can't have international relations. That's what his job was, international relations. But he didn't want this. During the course of PMQs, and as it started, they had to issue a separate piece of paper to caveat the First Amendment to the humble address. And this was started by Rayner saying, look, we do need an independent person, this information we can go to. We can't have Starmer saying, I'm not handing it over. We can't have his permanent secretary saying, we're not handing it over, because so far they're all caught up with this concealment, what people know, what we didn't know. Why don't you send it to an independent body? They will look at it, see whether it is like national security or not, see if it can be released. And this happened. Rayner really started the charge on that. So partway through the proceedings, this came, which said it will now go to the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament. They will look at it and they will decide. It wasn't quite as clear as it should be because it was done last minute, but they should decide. Not they should decide, go back to government, say this is what we think, and government decide. They should decide whether it comes to us as MPs. So this was the scrambling around that was happening during the course of the day. Starmer fled from PMQs because he knew he was rattled. Alicia Kearns stood up and said, by the way, you never have on a humble address things about national security. That's part of it anyway. So she was doing a point of order. Prime Minister rushed out. And then his own party was saying, whether it was Derek Twigg, yes, it has to go to the Intelligence and Security Committee. Lots of people on their side were saying that as well. And I spoke to Labour MPs, because there were so many of us, in and around the chamber last night. They are saying they feel embarrassed. They feel ashamed. They don't believe they could trust him. They couldn't vote for him for a vote of no confidence and his judgment. But they're taking it as a personal insult now. When he said, yes, I knew he was the friend of a convicted paedophile. This is like a moral issue and a moral problem for many of those Labour MPs. I said, when were Labour MPs, going to find some spine, some backbone to bring down Starmer? Well, this is it.
Okay. But Starmer, he's Mr. Teflon. What's he going to do to defend himself?
Well, what he's looking to do, first of all, he's doing that I didn't know, which he did in his statement sort of today when he made a press conference day. I didn't know all of this. The other bit he's saying is, oh, I believed the lies that a compulsive liar told me. Not like to have any curiosity, but I totally believed him, even though everybody knows he tells lies. And the next thing I think he's going to really try and do is say, I hadn't seen all the information, because he does this a lot, didn't he? Read a speech one, Island of Stranger speech. Oh, I hadn't read it before. I read it live. My advisors kept it away from me. I didn't realise. I think he's actually going to say, I didn't see all the information. I let my advisors look after it. I'm such a busy person. They did, and they didn't give me all the information. So the name on everybody's lips at the moment is Morgan McSweeney. He is going to go. He is his political advisor. Lots of people have been wanting him to go for a long period of time, and it looks like he might go. He's also linked in with Mandelson. He was supported him to get the job. He's connected with him and friends. So he could be the one chucked under the bus. But I'd be very careful who he chucks under the bus, because there's a lot of people linked to Mandelson. Okay. He also helped with the selection and the approval of candidates for the Labour Party. There's Labour MPs there who are connected to him. They've got pictures of Wes Streeting with him. And you might say, well, what about that? Well, Wes Streeting's other half or husband is just this morning deleting links to Mandelson on his LinkedIn. So he's saying, yes, I was an advisor, but he's removing Mandelson from it. So there's lots of people with lots of links who owe their job to Mandelson. But yeah, I think Starmer is going to be chucking everybody under the bus before him. But it's his failures all the time, isn't it? I'm just going to add one thing. He also was saying, oh, MI6 and the intelligence services have got a lot to answer for as well. Not just Mandelson's line, but they didn't know. Maybe we're going to have to look at how we do the process. Well, I'm going to say, stop right there, Starmer. You keep saying MI6, MI5 told you it was okay to do the Chinese embassy because they could mitigate the fallout. You're saying it's okay what they've said about the Chagos Islands. Well, now you're bringing into question what they've said. So I'm saying now, here and now on this show, well, if you're bringing them into question for Mandelson's appointment, I'm bringing the information that you've got about the Chinese embassy right here, right now, on the Espresso podcast with you into question as well. You can't have a bit and not the other bit. It's all of it then.
Yes. Good grief. Again, as always, I'm exhausted hearing all of this information. But before we finish, for once, let's talk about you, Esther McVey, and the work you've been doing this week. You are on the panel for the start of the independent rape gang investigation. Tell me about that, please.
Well, on the floor of the House yesterday, because it was a long debate, there was a point that was raised, and I think it was spot on. And it said the whole of the Epstein paedophile ring and what went on there was very powerful men taking advantage of vulnerable girls and vulnerable people.
Yeah.
And I stood up actually on the floor of the House and I said, well, haven't we heard this all before? The rape gang inquiry, was that not powerful men taking advantage of vulnerable girls in this country? And I'm afraid the Prime Minister didn't pay much regard to that, hence he appointed Mandelson. I said, but I'm feeling we're getting the same thing from Keir Starmer over the rape gang inquiry. He's never wanted to do it. He's run away from it. By the way, it still hasn't started. He doesn't want to do it. And again, this is a party that goes on about the rights of vulnerable people, a party that goes on about women's rights. And I will also remind people that remember Starmer didn't know what a woman was until a few weeks ago. He couldn't define one. So this is who we've got there. But I said, so I want to raise this issue. And the reason this also is pertinent to right now, this week I've been taking part in the Rupert Lowe independent rape gang inquiry. The government couldn't do it. Rupert Lowe set one up. Over 20,000 members of the public put money in. So we raised over £600,000 to get it going. Now, that's a drop in the ocean to what the government's got. Drop in the ocean to what a government can do and civil servants can do. But we said, let's get it going. This should hopefully give information to the government to get cracking on, but also shame the government into action. I mean, we're doing it. We're getting on with it. We're speaking to these people. Now, my key point is I wanted to look, because there's various people on the panel.
Yeah.
Got a barrister who's hosting it there. You've also got Sammy, who was a victim of sort of rape gangs. There are, and various other people. Rupert is as well, and I am. But I want to know what were the state failings. So each time when I speak to one of these people who've been so badly affected by rape gangs, I ask them, because they all have different bits really of the puzzle on what needs to be done. And one of the girls, I just keep to the first name, Fiona, was in a children's care home. And we're going back, 10 years, of which the care home, state-run, was getting paid £5,000 a week for her, right? And there were times that she might go missing for days on end. And I said, did nobody say, where are you?
Yeah.
Where have you been? Follow it up, do anything? No. When all the cars were hanging outside of the children's care centre, did nobody get the registration numbers? Was nobody getting onto the police? Was nobody? No, they weren't. So all of this was major failings of a care centre, a kids' centre for vulnerable children that was state-run. So this is a massive failing. And the one she was in had even failed its Ofsted report. So in every way, so I looked at that. With another one, I was speaking to her about Natasha, about the networks. Because people are saying, oh, they're not that big. Oh, it's finished now. There's no more rape gangs going on. Starmer saying it's finished. Sadiq Khan saying it doesn't exist anymore. And I said, can you tell me about the networks, about the size, where you went to, what happened, is it still happening, of which she is convinced it is. She also talked about, they'd call them newbies who would come and rape her, and sometimes she was kept in a house and they'd all travel to her, and other times she would go to different places for these revolting men. But the newbies were illegal immigrants coming into the country, and they would be new people, getting a part of this. And then I said, but what tests are done on illegal migrants now? Another failing. Not only should they be detained and deported and not come in, but if they are in here and we know they're in hotels, why aren't we getting their DNA testing? Not just photos and fingerprints, we want their DNA. So each time I was going through, what was the failing? And then another one was really the lack of community policing. And getting more bobbies on the beat is essential. And Labour are trying to remove them away. But it's so essential because they would have been going round to these cafes and seeing the young kids there with an elderly man picking up the tab. They would have seen them in the fish and chip shops. They would have seen them at the arcades and would have said, hey, you're underage, you should be at home or at school and we will take you there. But they weren't. They were allowed to continue without any consequences, which is why they got bolder and the bolder. These networks got bigger and bigger. And then I also asked about, did they think political correctness had infiltrated the police and so many of these establishment organisations? And they said, yes, people were so frightened to be called racist that they overlooked what went on, which I say is the equivalent really of being sort of racist and sexist to these young white working class girls, because nobody protected them. They were so frightened. And then there was also evidence given by an academic, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who talked about the cultural differences, how women are viewed as property to some of these cultures who've entered our country, and how naive we were of a government to let people in, to think multiculturalism is wonderful, diversity is wonderful. It wasn't because you didn't understand it, you never questioned it. And when some of these people saw there were no consequences whatsoever, they became emboldened and carried on. And they said the only culture that did, because some Sikh girls were being attacked, the Sikh men came out straight away and went, do not do. And that sort of, they sort of put them back in the box, so as to speak, but actually so many other young girls were let down significantly. So like I said, I'm doing this independent rape gang inquiry this week, next week, and then we'll put forward our report.
Well, Esther, thank you for doing the work. Thank you for holding people to account. And thank you for coming on Expresso once again. I am ready for some more caffeine. So that is it for today's Daily Expresso. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, like, subscribe and share. Thank you and bye-bye.